two problem we have already seen. This is the third part of the same problem. If the gate thickness, so gate thickness we denote by Tox, is 1000 Armstrong, calculate number 1 the maximum depletion width. Okay. So that XD is what I have taken for depletion width. So this is like XD max. That is number 1, and number 2 is the threshold voltage. The threshold voltage VTH. Okay, so calculate these two things. Only additional thing that is given on the top of what we have already stated in the previous part of the problem. One parameter is additionally given, and added to that the epsilon R for silicon is 11.9 and epsilon R for oxide is 3.9. Okay. So the question is, first of all, find out the depletion width, and that is maximum depletion width. Now what do we mean by maximum depletion width? So earlier we have seen that if we increase the VGB, then part of that will be dropped across your oxide, and some portion will be dropped across the interface region in the semiconductor, okay, which we denote as psi s. So the applied VGB is basically equal to psi ox, the drop across oxide, plus psi s, which is basically the drop in the semiconductor region at the interface. And then we derived the expression for psi ox. So if you remember, we derived a psi ox as Q Na XD. So this is basically the charge. XD is basically the depletion region width. Okay, so this derivation we did by assuming depletion mode of operation, and what we got is the charge per unit area divided by Cox. Okay, we applied Gauss law and all, and that is how we came into this. Okay. So that was the voltage. After finding out the electric field, we integrated it to find out the voltage, and we integrated it across the oxide region. Therefore XD came. The field was constant, and then XD came. Okay, where Cox, I think I have already specified. Cox is basically epsilon ox divided by Tox. Okay, so this we have derived, and then psi s also we derived. Psi s we obtained it as Q. We consider another Gaussian surface, and we got a second relationship. Okay, both of this derivation for psi ox and psi s, we have assumed that depletion mode. Okay, so when the device is operating in the MOS in depletion mode. Okay, so this we got. Now as you increase this VGB, as you can see here, the only variable is XD. Okay, so we have expressed it in terms of XD. The other way we can express is the same expressions we have also expressed it in terms of psi s. Okay, so this is psi s, and we could write psi ox in terms of psi x. So what you need to do is basically you take the psi s equal to this one, that is the second term, and then from that you find out xd and then substitute in the first term. Okay, so that will give you 2 q na epsilon silicon psi s divided by Cox plus psi x. Okay, so this is an alternate way of writing the same expression. 2 voltage drops, one across oxide and other in the semiconductor in the interface region. So in this case, in the second case, psi s is basically the it is basically the variable. Okay, as VGB increases, psi s changes. Now again, this is also applicable only in the depletion mode, and I told depletion mode means what? Depletion mode means when VGB applied is from if it is less than VTH, but on the other hand it is if it is a diode with phi ms equal to 0, then it is 0 to VTH in that range, but if it is not a phi ms equal to 0 case, then we have to have flat band voltage. So this is basically the depletion mode. So if if VGB is less than V flat band, we will have basically accumulation. If it is greater than VTH, then we will have strong inversion. Okay, so we discussed all that. Now here what is asked to find out is maximum depletion width. So maximum depletion width correspond to the case where this relationship is applicable in the extreme. Okay, so there are two extremes. One is like xd is equal to 0, right? If xd is equal to 0, then there will be no voltage drop. If you take the first expression, VGB is going to 0. So this is when flat band voltage is 0. Okay, so if you consider in our example we have flat band voltage 0, so I'll put 0 here and I will write in bracket V flat band is equal to 0. If that is not the case, like when phi ms is not 0, so we need to consider that also. There will be additional term for that also. Okay, so for the problem that we are considering, we have assumed that phi m equal to phi s. Okay, so therefore flat band voltage is 0. Okay, there is another way in which flat band voltage can be non-zero, which I will come into today itself, but let us stick to this problem where flat band voltage is 0 because phi m is equal to phi s and there is no other parameter making flat band voltage non-zero. Okay, so there are only these two terms in that case, and as you can see in the first expression which I wrote in terms of xd, as xd increases, as VGB increases, xd increases according to this equation. Now the maximum value VGB can be applied so that this relationship is valid is when VGB equal to VTH. Okay, so when VGB become VTH, VGB is equal to VTH, then we can write VTH is equal to QNA XD, but now max, divided by Cox plus QNA XD max square divided by 2 epsilon 0. So the entire range, this equation is applicable, but if you go to the extreme situation where the applied voltage is VTH, VGB equal to VTH, so then the corresponding width is what we call as maximum depletion width. Now, why this equation is not valid for VGB greater than VTH is something that you should also understand. So I am going to tell you about that also along with this problem. So there is some amount of information I want to add on to what we have discussed already. That is because, as we have seen in the second part of the problem, we derived basically NPS. If you remember, that was basically Ni square by Na into e raised to psi s by Vt. Okay, so this is what we have used to derive the expression. So this was basically something like if Na was 10 raised to 16, so Ni square by Na is going to be of the order of 10 raised to 4. And then we consider two cases of psi s. One was basically 0.1 volt, or in other words we can say 100 millivolt, and then we got this to be multiplied with some 10 raised to 2 or 10 raised to 3 by a factor like that. So 10 raised to 2, okay, it will be multiplied by 100 if psi s is around 120 millivolt. Then this is because Vt is fixed, it is 26 millivolt, so e raised to 120 divided by 26, so that will be around 100. So this is going to be multiplied by 100, okay, if psi s is 120, okay, but so 120 means like 0.12 volt, okay. And also we have earlier found out in part 1 of the problem we found out our phi b. So we had phi b. Phi b is basically what? In the bulk, if you take EI minus EFS, okay, so that is basically called phi b, and this we have evaluated. How much was the value? Anybody remember? I think it was let me check. We got it as 0.35 volt. Okay, so this divided by Q, because EI is in electron volt, so you need to divide by Q and you will get it 0.35 volts. Okay, so we have only applied much smaller voltage in comparison to phi b. Okay, so we applied 100 volt, 200 volt, that is 0.2 volt maximum, and we saw that the concentration of NPS as well as PPS, both of them are like much lesser than the concentration of Na. So primarily the charge is due to the immobile impurity atoms, okay, and therefore this equation is valid as long as if NPS and PPS if both are less than, so or less than, say, let me say Na, okay, it should be in principle much less than Na, but at least if they are lesser than, say, 1/10 of Na, then this expression is valid. So that's what we were trying to show in the last part of the problem, and we looked at two cases which is supposed to be in the depletion mode of operation. 100 and 200 millivolt correspond to the case where these are satisfied, because you see that 5B is 0.35, those are voltages which are smaller. Okay, so you can also write here the same condition like 5S between 0 and 2 5B. Okay, this is another way of specifying in terms of psi s. Okay, so that is basically the depletion mode. So since 5B is basically 0.35, 2 5B is going to be how much? It is going to be 0.7. So as long as your psi s is less than 0.7, this NPS and PPS are going to be much larger than your NA. Okay, and therefore, so this is another condition for depletion mode. Okay. Okay, so this is true only in depletion mode. Now, if our psi s is equal to 2 5B, that means 0.7 volt. Okay, because our 5B is basically 0.35, 2 times that is 0.7 volt. So then what happens? We are going to get inversion, or the corresponding voltage at the gate is what we refer to as the threshold voltage, and beyond that point we are saying this expression here is not valid. So that's what I am trying to explain. Why it is not valid is because if you take the charges in the semiconductor region near the interface, then we can again find out NPS in this case. So if you find out NPS in this case, what is going to happen? NPS is basically equal to Ni square by Na, which is again 10 raised to 4, this is 10 raised to 4, multiplied by e raised to now 0.7, okay, or 700 you can say, if I write it in millivolt, 700 divided by 26. Okay, so this is going to be a huge number. As I told you, 60 volt correspond to multiplication by a factor of 10. How many 60s are there in 700? So roughly if you look at in 600 you have 10 times, and then in 700, if it was 720, then so approximately this factor is going to be 10 raised to 12. Okay, this factor is going to be 10 raised to 12. For 60 millivolt increase, we have this factor becoming 10. So if it is 120, it will be 10 raised to 2. If it is say 180, then it will be 1000, etc. So 700 has how many 60? Roughly 12 60s are there. Okay, 720 means it is 12 60. 60 into 12 is 700. So so we can say it is 10 raised to 12. So now if I multiply these two, so what I am going to get? So this is going to be of the order of 10 raised to 16, which is comparable to Na. And now if I go beyond that, if I go beyond 700 or 720, then I am going to increase my concentration of electrons at the interface much larger than the Na value. Okay, so this condition is no longer true. Okay, NPS, this condition for depletion mode will no longer remain true if my NPS become larger than Na. Okay, so and that charge we have not taken into account in the derivation. We have only taken into account the immobile charges due to the acceptor ions. So therefore what happens is that the concentration of electrons or the charge which is going to appear due to the free electrons, okay, so that become much larger compared to Na, and therefore our expression will no longer be applicable. So the point at which this happens is the depletion region width at which it happens is we are referring to as SD max. Okay, you can see that in, by drawing the energy band diagram also. For example, if this is my, I am not fully drawing everything, but just enough to show you what is happening. So this is my EV, and then I have EI, and then I have EC. So this is my band diagram in the semiconductor region away from the interface. But then at the interface, what is going to happen? If the bending, that is psi s, becomes 2 phi b, then what will happen is this intrinsic level is going to bend how much? By 2 phi b. So phi b is this is q into phi b. So 2 times that much it will bend. So that means it will come somewhere here. The amount by which it is above the Fermi level, by that amount it will come below the Fermi level. So it will be like this. Bending will be this much. And similarly all other will also bend by 2 phi b. So this is 1 phi b, 2 phi b. So somewhere here. Okay. So this also will bend like that. So this is what is going to happen. And now if you look at this is the Fermi level, and our intrinsic is below. So Fermi level is above the intrinsic level at the interface, and therefore the concentration of electron is 10 raised to 16, which is equal to the concentration of Na. Okay, and any voltage if you apply further will bend this band even further. So right now, so this is psi s, q psi s, and it is equal to 2 phi b into q. Okay, so psi s is 2 phi b. If the drop across the semiconductor and the interface region become 2 phi b, the concentration of this free electrons become much larger, and therefore we need to take into account of that. So what is going to happen is that once the concentration rises above, there will be hardly any voltage change, or the psi s will not change significantly. Why? Because you don't need to push away the electrons, or the holes, in order to uncover larger and larger area of the depletion width. You don't need to increase the depletion region width. How does the depletion region width increases? By pushing away the holes from underneath the oxide region. Okay, so as you push away the holes, so when the holes are gone, you get a depletion region with immobile charges. So that was keep on happening, but only up to this particular point where you are reaching basically a strong inversion, where psi s is equal to 2 phi b, and beyond which what is going to happen is you will only have electrons coming in this region just beneath the oxide. As I told you, if I try to increase this voltage by 60 millivolt, it is going to increase the number of electrons here. So you don't need to increase the depletion width in order to have more negative charges in this side of the MOS capacitor. So this is like one side of the MOS capacitor. We need to have negative charges. So that negative charges, earlier it was contributed by the immobile acceptor impurity atoms. But right now, once this condition is reached, you can have those charges from the electrons which are going to be accumulated here, or which are going to be created by this layer near the interface. So you don't need to extend. So whenever you apply for a capacitor a voltage from the battery, so there will be positive side, there will be plus charge, and negative side there will be negative charge. So earlier this negative charge were contributed by the acceptor ions as you were increasing this, but once VGB become greater than VTH, this negative charge is going to be contributed by these electrons. So inversion layer electrons will supply the enough amount of negative charge, and therefore depletion region width need not increase, and it will not increase, or in other words the depletion region width will reach its maximum and then it will stop increasing. Afterward, only the concentration of electrons near to the interface is going to increase. So if I write the concentration of negative charge in the oxide or in the semiconductor QS, so this is per unit area I am writing, so that was majorly due to QB in the depletion mode, and there was some electrons in the depletion mode which were like relatively much smaller in number, so we neglected it. Okay, so Qn was neglected in the depletion mode of operation, and therefore since we can say that if Qn is much lesser than Qb, we neglect its contribution in the depletion mode analysis. Okay, and therefore this approximation is called as, so it is this approximation is called as depletion depletion approximation. Depletion approximation. So I have not specified it during the derivation time, but this is what I did actually. I did not take into account of this Qn because it was much, I did not show also initially, but last class I showed that it is much smaller by taking this this formula. You can see it by taking different cases of psi s. You can see it for yourself also, that any voltage of psi s which is between 0 and 2 phi b, you will not make much error by neglecting Qn. Okay, so the oxide side, that is the negative charges on the capacitor one side, is entirely due to phi b. That is what we have considered. But actually this is not true. After the strong inversion happens, you can say that Qn become very significant, they become comparable, or and if you increase the voltage beyond VTH by large amount, then even you can neglect QB, and Qn is going to be very high. Okay, so this approximation is only valid for depletion mode of operation. But so let me state that also, but if VGB is greater than VTH, or in other words our psi s is greater than 2 phi b, okay, this is expressed in terms of the drop of voltage in the semiconductor. This is the applied voltage on the gate with respect to bulk. So both way you can specify. Qn cannot be neglected. Okay, and therefore the earlier expression for VGB is no longer valid. Okay, so VGB equal to, so what did we write? VGB equal to QNA XD by Cox plus QNA XD square by, this expression is no longer valid. okay, because it doesn't take into account of the Qn component. Okay, this expression is telling that as you increase VGB, depletion region is increasing and increasing, XD is increasing and increasing, but this is no longer valid. So the maximum value of XD is that which correspond to, so this is our conclusion. Therefore the XD max correspond to the case phi s is equal to 2 phi b. I hope by now you understand what is XD max. The maximum depletion region width is that which corresponds to psi s equal to 2 phi b. So in order to evaluate this, so you take the relationship for XD, and then so what is the relationship for XD? XD is basically, if I take this relationship for psi s becoming 2 phi b, that's what I told. So 2 phi b is equal to Q Na XD max whole square by epsilon silicon, okay, or that is XD max is going to be equal to square root of 2 epsilon silicon. I am taking this to the other side, and then you have 2 phi b, and then divided by QNA under square root. Okay, so I just inverted this relationship, so that gives me the XD max. So now we have all the parameters that is required to find this out. So if you substitute it, so let us substitute it. So this is equal to 2 into, now what is epsilon of silicon? Epsilon's R of silicon is given as 11.9. okay, so epsilon silicon is basically epsilon R of silicon into epsilon 0. Now what is epsilon 0? 8.85 into 10 raised to minus 12. Epsilon 0 is 8.85 into 10 raised to minus 12 farad per meter. Okay, so but we are always specifying our length in centimeter, so this is equal to 8.85 into 10 raised to minus 14 farad per centimeter. So that's what we are going to use. So 8.85 into 10 raised to minus 14 into 2 phi b, I already told you it is 0.7 because phi b is 0.35, divided by Q, which is 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb, into Na, which was 10 raised to 16 per centimeter cube. See, so that also was in centimeter unit. So therefore we need to be consistent, and if you evaluate this, what you are going to get is basically 0.304 micrometer. Okay, so that is what you are going to get. It will be much smaller, so instead of centimeter we are using micrometer here. So that is 10 raised to, so if you want it in centimeter, it will be 0.34 into 10 raised to minus 4 centimeter. Okay, so that is the first part of the problem, and the second part of the problem is what? We are asked to find out the threshold voltage. Now expression for threshold voltage is here. Okay, you can use either of this. Either you can use the relationship in XD in terms of XD, or you can use the one in terms of psi s. So psi s we know it is going to be 2 phi b, and then what about this first term. So first term, in order to find out, we need to find out Cox. Okay, either we are using the first expression or the second expression. We need Cox, and now Cox is what? The oxide capacitance per unit area. So it was earlier defined. Cox is basically epsilon ox divided by Tox. Okay, area is not there because this is capacitance per unit area. Okay, so what is that? So that is going to be equal to epsilon ox is basically epsilon ox r, that is 3.9 into epsilon 0, which is again 8.85 into 10 raised to minus 14 farad per centimeter, divided by Tox is given as 1000 Armstrong. So 1 Armstrong is how much? 1 Armstrong is 10 raised to minus 10 meter, or in centimeter if you write, it will be 10 raised to minus 8 centimeter. So 1000 means 10 raised to 3 into 10 raised to minus 8. Okay, so that is, so if I evaluate this, we will get it as 3.45 into 10 raised to 8 minus 8. Okay, it will be minus 8 farad per centimeter square. So normally the capacitance is unit is farad, but here it is capacitance per unit area, so therefore it is this. So we got XD max and we got Cox. So now we can evaluate Ψox. Okay, so that is a voltage drop in the across the oxide layer. So that is going to be what was the relationship? It was QNAXD by Cox. So let me take that expression, QNAXD by Cox. Okay, so everything is known to us. Q is basically 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 into Na is basically 10 raised to 16 per centimeter cube into XT means here XD max. So that is basically, we obtained it as 0.304 into 10 raised to minus 4 in centimeter unit, and then divide this by Cox, which we just now found, 3.45 into 10 raised to minus 8. So this comes around as 1.41 volts. Okay, so this is Ψox. Now what is Ψs? Ψs is basically 2.5b, which is 0.7, and therefore VTH. Okay, so again I am repeating, this is the case where flat band voltage is 0. If a flat band voltage is not 0, I need to add flat band voltage along with which is basically 5ms, 5m minus 5s. I need to add to this. Okay, so right now in our case it is 0, it is given as 0, so therefore we just need to add these two voltages, 1.41 plus 0.7, so that is equal to 2.11 volts. So that is our threshold voltage. So this is how the inversion layer, when it is created, the voltage you need to apply is 2.11 volt. So if flat band voltage is there, usually it is negative, so the threshold voltage will come down by that much amount. Okay, so you are adding a negative quantity with this 2.11 in order to take into account of the flat band voltage, and thereby it will be, threshold voltage may be something like say 1 volt or something, depends upon how much is the work function difference. Okay, so now we are going to move to a another important factor which contribute to the flat band voltage. Okay. So flat band voltage, okay, it is denoted by VFB, V flat band. Okay, so flat band voltage, one way it can come if phi m is not equal to phi s. Okay, so the phi m is the work function of metal, phi s is the work function of semiconductor. If they are not equal, then phi m minus, okay, or let me write the other way, then V flat band, due to this effect of different work function, is going to be phi m minus phi s. Okay, so mostly phi m is going to be smaller than phi s, so flat band is going, in that case it is going to be negative. If some material that we are using has a large work function for metal, then phi m minus phi s could be positive also. In that case we need to apply a positive flat band voltage in order to straighten the band. Okay, so this is one way flat band voltage can arise. The other way it can come is oxide charges. So far we have not considered this effect, oxide charges. So inside the oxide region, okay, that is the insulator part, inside the oxide region there could be charges, and there are various ways it can be coming. Okay, there are various effects. I am not going into the details of it. Okay, but if oxide is having some charges, mostly when in practice we get some positive charges. Okay, so if there are some positive charges, it may be located at the interface, it may be inside the oxide region or at near the boundary. Okay, or it could be even due to mobile charges. There are various types of charges. Okay, so some of the charges are trapped there, some are like ionized charges. So fixed charges, mobile charges, interface charges, okay, all different kinds of charges are there. So if oxide charges are there, then also VFB is non-zero. Okay, then also it can. So there are two ways in which flat band voltage can become non-zero. One is when phi m not equal to phi s, that we have already considered earlier, but other is due to the presence of oxide charges. Now we want to see this. So in order to look at this, we need to first look at the charge distribution. So let's take so this is basically x-axis, and the origin is basically at the metal oxide interface. So between, and let's say this is our thickness Tox. Okay, so origin is basically metal, so this is metal side, then you have oxide, and then you have semiconductor. So what we are saying is that inside the oxide somewhere, okay, so that somewhere could be like anywhere, so there is some positive charge here. Let's say that it is located at a distance x0, okay, away from the origin. That means it's the way I have drawn, it is more near to the semiconductor interface than it is to the metal interface. So oxide has two interface, one is the metal oxide interface, other is oxide semiconductor interface. So x0 is more near to that location of trapped charges inside the oxide region is going to be, and assume that this is positive. So I am drawing basically rho. So if I am drawing it upside from the horizontal axis, then it means that it is going to be plus, and the density of this charge per unit area, let me for simplicity call it as Qox. Okay, so if there is a charge, now I am not applying any voltage. You take a MOS capacitor like this. So there is metal oxide semiconductor, and then I don't apply any voltage. I just short circuit between both sides, and there is some charge here in between. So this is my TOX. So there is some charges in the oxide region. X0 away from the metal interface. What is going to be the effect of energy band diagram? What is the effect of this QOX in the energy band diagram? How do we draw it? Okay, so just like we have drawn energy band diagram earlier, we need to draw this case also. So in order to understand this, if you have a wire connected from metal to the semiconductor, then what is going to happen is that this positive charge in the oxide, which is immobile, suppose it cannot be moved away from X0, so it is a fixed charge, and due to this positive charge there will be some amount of negative charge which will be coming in the metal, and some negative charge will come at the interface with the semiconductor. Okay, so we need to show those charges also. So this is my TOX. So I am going to have some negative charge here. Okay, something like this. So this is basically the immobile charges. Some kind of depletion region is created. So these are negative charge, immobile charge, and there is some charge in the metal also. Okay, which is also going to be negative. I am drawing downward, means it is negative. Okay, so this is negative, such that such that the entire thing is going to be neutral. Okay, so the charge will be such as, so let me call this as basically QG, and similarly I can call, like before, this as QS. Okay, so for keeping the material neutral, all these three charges, if we add them together, so that means let me write here itself, QG plus QOX. Okay, everything is in per unit area, plus QS is equal to, so this is due to the charge neutrality. Okay, so that has to be satisfied. Now if I proceed, but I don't know how much is QG, how much is QS, that I don't know. I cannot say that they are equal, same amount of negative charge, or they are just half of it. No guarantee. So it depends upon various things. How far is X0 from origin? If X0 is more near to the metal, then maybe QG is going to increase and QS is going to be small. If X0 is more near to the semiconductor interface, then QS may be larger. So there are various factors that will decide the relative magnitude of QG and QS. But one thing is sure, QG plus QS, that is going to be a negative charge, negative of QS. Okay, that is another way you can write. So QG plus QS, if you add the metal charge as well as the semiconductor charge, so then that will be equal to QOX. Okay, so that will be for sure. Then only the charge neutrality can be maintained. Now if the charge distribution is known, we actually don't know the magnitude, but if it is known, then we can draw, like before, the electric field. So the electric field will be from positive to negative, right? So in the region between origin and X0, okay, so this is origin, between origin and X0, the electric field will be in which direction? because this is positive, so electric field will be going from positive to the negative charge, so it will be in the negative x direction. Okay, so this is the electric field. Okay, so this is the magnitude of electric field in this side. Now if you look at the other side, from positive to negative is to be on the other direction. So you have no charges say here, but then once you reach the interface, as I told you, there is a permittivity change. Earlier we have said it should be almost 1 by 3, so it will then okay, so it will be something like this. So whenever there is no charges encountered in between, your electric field will be constant. Okay, because the electric field changes when the flux lines are terminated somewhere. The termination will start only when once you enter into the semiconductor region where there is depletion charges, and it takes over a length in order to fully terminate depending upon number of flux lines. So when it's begin to terminate, your electric field will decrease, but before that, before entering the semiconductor, it will remain constant with some magnitude. So this will be the electric field. Now we can continue this process in order to evaluate the potential. So this is basically electric field with respect to x, and now we can find out voltage. So voltage means it is psi in our notation. Now how do we find voltage? Voltage is basically minus E dot dl. So as you can see that the electric field is to the left direction, we are moving in the right direction, okay, and the magnitude is negative. So therefore E dot dx, they are contrary direction. Okay, so the negative signs will cancel because there is a minus sign here, and that is all right. So this minus sign will cancel with E dot dx will have a minus sign because dx is toward the right, E is to the left, so that will turn out to be negative into negative, and therefore we will have positive. And since there are no charge between origin and x0, your voltage is going to increase from 0. So it will go like this, and then what happens? It will basically decrease like this, but not fully to 0, because so I need to draw a straight line. It doesn't look straight. Okay, assume this is a straight line, and still there is some voltage that is to be dropped, so that will be dropped in a, so this part is a straight line, this is a straight line, and this is also a straight line, because electric field is constant. Integral is going to be a ramp function. Okay, E dot dx is going to be a ramp function, and the right side, as I told, only this negative sign will be there. E and dx is in the same direction, and therefore it will be negative, so that is why it is decreasing. And then you will have here parabolic. Okay, this we have seen earlier also. So here it is straight. So that is expected, because positive charge means it will be at higher potential compared to negative charge. So there is some negative charge. From negative to positive, the potential increases. Then again from positive to negative, the potential decreases. So this will be the picture. And what is more important is that how this will affect our energy band diagram. So there is a voltage drop inside the oxide, and there is a voltage drop inside the semiconductor. Okay, though I have, the way I have drawn, it is quite smaller. Okay, so this is the psi s. This is our psi s, and the remaining one is basically corresponding to the voltage draw. So let me just draw how does it look like. So let's so first of all I am going to draw the Fermi level. Oxide region, and then Fermi level is continuing. We have not applied any external voltage, so EFM and EFS, they have to be same. And then next thing is we have EC and EV in the insulator, and so somewhere here is our X. Let me shift it a little more so that it will look asymmetric. So X0 is here, our 0 is here, and this is our TOX. So okay, so what is going to happen? The potential is going to decrease, right? Because potential is increasing, but Q into psi. Okay, so psi and E are related by multiplication by the electron charge, because these are electron energy band diagram. So you need to multiply with minus 1.6. So therefore increase in potential will be reflected as a decrease in, so it will be something like this. And then what happens is that it will try to increase, but it will not increase till the initial level. It will only increase up to this. Okay, same thing happen here also. The valence band in the insulator, it will go down and then it will come up. Okay, so this is how the insulator valence band. So this is your EV of the insulator, and then this is your EC of the insulator. And then comes the most important part, which is the semiconductor part. So away from the interface, everybody knows how does it look like. We are considering again P substrate. So here we have our EV, then we have our EI, and then we have our EC. Okay, so these are the levels away from the interface, but then some amount of drop. Okay, so it has not come back. So if you look back again to the potential diagram, you see that it increases to the peak and then comes back not to the 0, slightly above 0. So whatever is left is dropped in the semiconductor. Okay, so there it was positive voltage, so here it will be shown with a negative. So whatever is this difference, so this difference is basically Q into psi s. So that okay, so this is going to be Q into psi s. So every band will do a bending here. So now itself you can see why there is flat band voltage that you need to apply in order to make them flat. They are not flat now. Okay, so this may not be correct, not maybe this much. Okay, so roughly I have okay, so this bending is Q psi s in the energy band diagram. Okay, so in the potential we had it all positive, but here everything is toward the negative. Whatever is toward upward direction is now going to be in the negative direction because of the multiplication by Q. Okay, so this is basically the way. That's why we are writing Q psi s everywhere. Okay, so this is the case. So that means what? That means the bands are not flat, and therefore we need to apply a So V flat band, what is going to be V flat band? So it is the voltage that is required to straighten the bands inside the semiconductor. Okay, so how much is that? So we need to find that out. So which, first of all, tell me whether we need to apply positive voltage or negative voltage. Anybody? Do we need to apply, in the present scenario, should we apply positive voltage or negative voltage in order to straighten the band? Are you listening? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Should we apply positive voltage or negative voltage in order to straighten the band? It is very similar to the case of 5ms negative, right? If you compare 5ms negative, we had a similar bending, right? The bending was toward downside in the energy band diagram. Here also it is downside, and in order to remove that, we applied a negative voltage, right? So here also we need to apply a negative voltage. And if you apply a negative voltage, what would happen? EFM will go down. Okay, so EFM will go down with respect to EFS. With respect to EFS, it will go down. And then what happens? All the bands will become flat. EV will be flat, EI will be flat, EC will also be flat. Okay, I am not showing vacuum level and all, that also you can show. And then what happens in the oxide? So that is important. So when you remove Q phi s, you will end up straightening this this part also. So basically, in order to have a flat band, the requirement is that your QS. So this is the question I asked, what is flat band voltage here? So the answer is that the VGB required to remove QS or make QS, that is charge in the semiconductor, 0. If charge in the semiconductor is 0, means what? We can go back to our earlier diagram. So if charge in the semiconductor is 0, means this condition has to be still valid for charge neutrality. Okay, but if charge in the semiconductor goes to 0, means QG is going to be minus QOX, and there is no charge here. If there is no charge here, there will be no flux line to the right side, and therefore there is going to be no voltage difference to the right from X0 onwards. Okay, there will be no voltage drop. Okay, so when you apply an external voltage between the terminal bulk and gate, there is going to be a net voltage, and that net voltage is basically the difference in the Fermi function. So this is going to be your V flat band, but now I am multiplying it with Q. Actually you are applying a I think I have you need to apply a negative voltage. Okay, because already positive charge is inside. So let me go back to this. Okay, so there is positive voltage here at X0 and negative charges, positive charges in X0, and there is negative charges in QG and semiconductor. So in order to make the bands flat, we need to remove QS to 0. So only way to remove with the charge neutrality satisfied is to increase the negative charge in gate. Now to increase the negative charge in gate, we need to apply a negative voltage to the gate, right? When you supply the negative terminal of the battery, that will bring in the negative charge in the gate, okay, and we need to increase it further from the present amount of charge, so that all electric field is between 0 and x0 from right to left, okay. So if there is same amount of charge here as well as in x0, you see that the electric field will be only from x0 to 0, and there will be no electric field from x0 to the semiconductor side, because everything is satisfied. Just like a capacitor has equal amount of charge on both plate, so that kind of situation we need to create. So as I said, flat band voltage means the VGS required to remove QS. So in order to remove QS, we need to basically increase the negative charge on the gate, and if you want to increase the negative charge on the gate, we need to apply a negative voltage on the gate. And if you are applying a negative voltage on the gate, then what you are going to do is basically you are going to shift the energy upward, okay, because of Q phi is equal to E. So I need to correct this. So what I am going to do is, I am going to shift this downward. Okay. So earlier I have applied positive voltage, so EFM went down, so that's not correct, because EFM is going down means I am applying positive voltage, and if I apply positive voltage, positive charge is going to come, so that will make the situation more worse. If I have more positive charge, then to compensate for that, in the semiconductor I will increase my negative charge, so I don't want that. So I need to apply a negative voltage. So negative voltage I applied, and therefore in the electron energy band diagram things have gone up. So this is my Q into V flat band, okay, in this case. So V flat band is clearly negative voltage. Okay, so now if this is the case, how does it's going to look in the oxide region? So as you remove the field lines beyond x0, the slope of this EC and EV in the oxide shouldn't be there. It has to be flat, because voltage is only present if there is electric field. If electric field is 0, voltage is constant, right? Because derivative of a constant is 0, right? E is basically del V minus del V. So if V is a constant, electric field is 0. We want to create a situation E is equal to 0. That means your voltage has to be constant. So that means when I draw, what I need to do is basically I have to keep from x0 onwards. Suppose this is the x0 point, I need to keep it constant, okay. So same thing for EC as well as EV, I have to keep it constant, okay. So this is because of this relationship, electric field has to be 0. So if del V is equal to 0, which means that V is constant, okay. So that is also flat. And then what happens on the other side? Now the entire voltage is going to be, earlier I had some voltage, but now that is going to increase. So it is going to be something like this. Okay, so this is the situation on the region between 0 and x0. x0 is the place where I have, so this is my x0 point where I have the positive fixed charges in the oxide. Okay, so now you look at you have negative charges on the metallic plate, positive charge at x0. Okay, so this is my x0 point, and electric fields are basically from positive to negative charge like this. This is the direction of electric field, and therefore the voltage, entire voltage has to be dropped across the, so this is like increasing the earlier voltage. So if I draw the electric field and the charge distribution, so the charge distribution is something like this. I have at x0 as before qox. So this is my qox at x0. Okay, so in this case what is going to happen is I have the same amount of charge minus q0 on the metal. So q gate is basically minus q0. I don't have any charge here, so that is how I made it flat. Okay, and then if I now integrate, I will get electric field. So this is my rho. Now my electric field, how does it look? It is going to be negative. So, and it is only between x0 and 0. So this is my 0 point and this is my x0 point. I have electric field like this. It is constant. Okay, this is my x, and then similarly I can draw my potential. So if there is no electric field, potential has to be constant. So you have potential 0 here, or you can say that you have negative potential here, and it will, so let me draw like this. So if I apply the integration, so this point I have 0 potential. Okay, because basically I am applying a battery like this, flat band voltage I am applying. Okay, it is a negative voltage that I am applying. Okay, but this is my reference point, ground point. So this point I have 0 volt. Okay, but on the other side I have a negative voltage. Okay, so this is going to be my negative voltage. So this is my psi. So that is going to be how much? So this voltage is going to be my VAP, which is externally supplied. Earlier that was 0. From x is equal to 0 point, and so this is my Tox x naught. So between Tox and 0 point earlier I had no difference. If you look at, okay, so if you look at here, this is my 0 point and this is my other side. So it is same potential. That means I have applied 0 voltage like this. Okay, I just short circuited it. It's a 0 voltage. But right now what is happening is I have applied a negative voltage. Okay, so a negative terminal is coming to the metal, and then reference is in the semiconductor. So there I kept 0 because I have taken this as reference. So the other side I will have a negative voltage which is equal to Q5B. And now in the energy band diagram this thing will be reversed because of multiplication by QB. So this is basically Q into V flat band. Okay, so that is how it is. So the point to be taken from here is that if there is charge density for oxide charges in the oxide, then I need to apply a additional voltage at the gate in order to flatten the bands in the semiconductor, or to remove any charge which is inside the semiconductor. Okay, otherwise the bend is so it is a voltage that we need to apply in order to flatten the bands in the semiconductor, or in other words we can say to remove the charges inside the semiconductor interface. So that will basically help us to flatten the band. Sujuma, mute your mic. Okay, now so if you want an expression for this flat band voltage, it is very easy to find out from this if you know the electric field here, say let's say this is E0, curly E0, I am taking it as this electric field, and that electric field, if you apply Gauss law, you will get, because there is only so if you take basically a Gaussian surface like this, then only all electric fields are going to be coming out of this in this direction, and no other surface of the cuboid will have any electric field. So you can write it as like E0 into, so if I take unit area, so 1 into what else, epsilon 0, epsilon, so here it is ox, so that is going to be equal to the charge enclosed. Since I am taking unit area, so the charge enclosed is going to be q ox itself. So which means that I have my E naught, the electric field magnitude between point 0 and x naught is going to be q ox by epsilon ox. Now I can write this as epsilon ox by T ox. I know that it is basically C ox, so I would write it as Q ox by C ox into T ox. Okay, I just divide and multiply with the T ox. So sorry, it should be in the denominator. Into 1 by T ox. So I can write it this way. Now if I want to find out this voltage, so that is my flat band voltage, so I will just take the magnitude, flat band voltage. So okay, so it's basically integral E naught dx. So from where to where I have to go? I have to go from 0 to okay, so if 0 to x naught I go, I will get it as a positive quantity, but I should rather go from x naught to 0. So I should go from x naught, because it is the voltage at the gate with respect to the other side. So other side is x naught and here it is 0, and E naught is constant, so I can take it outside, so minus E naught, and x integral is basically x, and then limit is dx integral is x, and then limit is x naught 0. So that we will get it as minus, so let's substitute for E naught, so that is basically Q ox by C ox into so this will become 0 minus x naught, that is minus x naught, 0 minus Okay, I have made a mistake in the sign here. The electric field will be in the negative direction, and that is because my this integral, surface integral, I had a surface integral here, E or E dot ds. Okay, so ds is a unit vector in the, okay, so but that is correct. Let me check. So ds is basically a unit vector out pointing out of the cuboid, so that is toward the left, and my electric field is also to the left, and therefore they are in same direction, so it should be same. Qx. Okay, but if I take okay, so yeah, the difference is this. So this unit vector is actually pointing in minus x cap direction, right? Or the unit vector in the x is actually to the right, because x is increasing to the right, and therefore the actual direction of ds cap is basically negative of the x cap. So if I take into account of that, there will be a minus sign here. So therefore here also there will be a minus sign. So minus sign only means that it is from right to left. Electric field is from right to left. Okay, if it is from left to right in the increasing direction of x, it will be positive. Okay, so if I take into account of that, then I need to put in this minus sign here. So there is already a minus sign here, and then you have x here, so 0 minus x here, and then after I substitute, this sign will go away, and this will be Tox. Or finally I will get basically Qox minus Qox by Cox into x naught by Tox. Okay, so this is what finally I will get. So that's going to be a negative voltage, and that's what we are showing here also. It's flat band voltage is going to be a negative voltage. So it depends upon where it is located. So now if you see here, so let's see if x naught, the location of these charges, is x is equal to 0, that means flat band voltage is 0, right? On the other hand, if x naught is equal to Tox, that is the other extreme at the interface, then we have flat band voltage maximum, and that is going to be Tox by Tox. So that is basically Qox by Cox. Okay, so this is the case of maximum, and this is the case of minimum. So depending upon the location of the charge, it will vary. In general, it is not just at one point these charges are going to be, and also it is going to be a function of so let me state that in general Qox is actually a function of x. That means it will be present anywhere from 0 to Tox. Okay, and so in that case, what is going to be V flat band? V flat band is going to be given by the integral. Okay, so if it is at just one point, we have Qox by Cox, but if it is actually distributed, then when we find out this integral, the electric field is not going to be constant. Okay, so the electric field will vary from point to point. Okay, because some of the flux lines will terminate at different points. So electric field is no longer constant in that case. If it is a non-zero electric field, then or non-constant electric field, you need to take into account of that also. So V flat is going to be equal to we can write it in this way. So if Qox is a function of x, then what we can do is you can write it as you need to write it as an integral from so assuming that this Qox is a positive charge density, okay, it could be negative also, but let's if it is negative, it will take negative values, so that is going to be equal to minus 0 to Tox. So that is the range in which charges can be present. Then Qox of x by Cox. Okay, I am just doing this integration right now by assuming that E naught is not a constant. So it is also a function. Okay, so in this integral I cannot take it outside. Cox I can take it outside, but Tox also I can take it outside, but Qox I cannot take it outside the integral. So I have to write it as this into x by Tox dx. Okay, so this is how I have to consider. So it will be a cumulative effect of all the charges inside. So earlier I have treated E naught as a constant and I took it outside and only x is there, but now I cannot take it outside because Qox is also a function of x. So in other words, what we are doing is basically we are slicing the entire region into small strips, and we are basically integrating each strip. So each strip will give you Qox into x, so you x dx. So that way you are you can inside the strip you can treat Qox as a constant. Okay, so when you integrate, you will get x there, but for a different strip it will be different value. So just an integration when the function is not a constant. So this is our flat band voltage. So the major point is that if there is charges present, the flat band, if it is a positive charge inside, then it is going to be a negative flat band voltage. If it is a negative charge inside, trapped inside the oxide region, it is going to be a positive voltage, flat band voltage, that you need to apply. Okay, so we saw two ways in which flat band voltage can come, as I told. Number one, due to the difference in the work function on the metal and the semiconductor. The second is what just now we have seen, due to the trapped charges inside the oxide region. Okay, so the total flat band voltage will be the sum of these two. Okay, sum of these two effects. Okay, so let me also let's do a problem. Okay, so in the same problem, assume that so let's this is 4. Assume that there is a charge trapped inside the oxide, fixed charge, and it is at the interface. The fixed oxide, and mostly these charges are located at the interface between silicon and oxide. Okay, so fixed oxide charge density, that means per unit area, is given by So this is our QOX. So charge will have coulomb per centimeter square, but if I divide it by Q, then it will be just a number density. So that is given as 8 into 10 raised to 10 per centimeter square. Okay, so this is the only charge, as the charge is going to be at the interface. So the question is calculate the gate oxide thickness. Calculate the gate oxide thickness to achieve VTH is equal to 1 volt. Okay, so there is some charge inside. As I told you, it will introduce some flat band voltage, and earlier we had derived the threshold voltage. It was something like 2 point something, right? How much it was? Earlier we have got our, where was it? Yeah, 2.11 was our threshold voltage. Now we want it to be 1 volt. So if you want the threshold voltage to become 1 volt, then the question is that how much thickness we need to take for oxide region. So in the fabrication you can control the oxide thickness, and whatever is the oxide thickness, this oxide charge will be at the interface by the same same surface density. So depending upon the oxide thickness, because the flat band voltage that we derived earlier, that depends upon oxide thickness, right? So let us rewrite that equation. So what was our equation? Our equation was V flat band is equal to, so if it is at the interface, it is QOX by COX. Okay, so we have a V flat band is equal to minus QOX by COX. So this is what we had, and how much this should be? We want this to be, so earlier it was 2.11, and if it has to be made to 1 volt, this has to become 1.11, right? Yeah, 1.11. This quantity has to become 1.11. Okay, so if it has to be 1.11, then how much should be the TOX? So COX, as we know, TOX is basically how much? COX is basically epsilon OX by TOX. So if I write, okay, so this should be minus 1.11. So that means, so that is QOX by epsilon OX TOX equal to 1.11. Or in other words, therefore TOX is equal to 1.11 into epsilon OX divided by QOX. Okay. So that is equal to 1.11 into what is epsilon ox? Epsilon ox was basically 3.9 into 8.85 into 10 raised to minus 14 farad per centimeter square, and q ox is basically 8 into, so this is basically farad per centimeter square, and this is 8 into 10 raised to 10 raised to 10 per centimeter square. And anything else? Okay, so I need to multiply it with q also, so this will be 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb. So centimeter square cancels, and then farad per coulomb. So the units have some problems. Okay, so this is basically coulomb per centimeter square, and farad per centimeter square. So it will be farad per coulomb, and then there is voltage. So here it is volts. So what is going to be the unit? So coulomb, Q is equal to CV, coulomb per, so it is going to be farad this is farad per centimeter. Okay, so now it is fine. Okay, so the epsilon ox has unit farad per centimeter, capacitance per unit length, not square. So therefore 1 of the centimeter will get cancelled, and you will have basically 1 centimeter will come up, and voltage has so C by F is also voltage, so therefore this will be in centimeter unit. Okay, so that looks okay. So we need to find this out. Okay, so I don't have this answer with me, but let's approximately find it out. Let's see. So 1.11 into 3.9 into 8.85 divided by 8. So this is going to be 10 raised to minus 14. Okay, so if I cancel this 10 raised to 14 with 10 raised to 19, I will get 10 raised to minus 5 in the denominator, which if I multiply with the 10 raised to 10, I will get 10 raised to minus 5 here. That many centimeter. Okay, so you can find out whatever is this. So this 8 we can cancel, maybe something like approximately 4 or 4 into 10 raised to minus 5 centimeter, which is how much? 10 raised to minus 4 centimeter is 1 micrometer, so it is 0.4 micrometer. So that should be the thickness that we need to fabricate in order to have this condition satisfied. Okay, so I have taken here the location x0 as I have taken as Tox. So I told you here, if x0 is x equal to 0, then Vf flat band is 0, but x0 is equal to Tox, then it will be Qox by Cox. That's what I have taken, because our actual formula was this. This is our flat band actual formula depending upon the location, but if x0 become Tox, then we will get a simplified formula minus Qox by Cox. So because the flat band voltage is negative 1.11, so therefore VTH, so VTH is what? VTH is V flat band plus our, so this contribution is due to the oxide charges plus our earlier whatever we found 2 psi s or psi s plus psi ox, so that was basically 2.11, so which is equal to, so here this was minus 1.11 plus 2.11 and we got it as 1 volt. Okay, so that is basically it is. So we completed basically the MOS physics of MOS capacitor, and this is what we are going to make use for building MOSFET. Okay, so now let me just introduce in the remaining time MOSFET. Okay, so MOSFET stands for MOS, we have already seen, metal oxide 3 regions semiconductor, and then field effect transistor. So let me draw the schematic structure for that. So the way to draw is, first of all, you take a P substrate. If you are planning for an N MOSFET, then you take a P substrate. I am showing only a 2D view, and then some area you deposit with oxide, and then on the top of that you have some metal. Okay, so this is almost like our MOS capacitor. Now comes the difference. So this is our gate, and this is our body. Okay, so this is our MOS capacitor. Now what we need to add in addition is basically 2 N plus regions. Okay, so N plus regions are usually fabricated like this. So this is an N plus region, and again there is going to be some metal connecting to this N plus region to take the terminal. Similarly here also, so it is just to take the terminal out. We always take terminal out by making some metallic contact with the N plus region. So one of them is called S and the other is called, so two new terminals have come up along with the previous existing terminal, gate and bulk. We have 2 additional terminals, and S is called the source and D is called the drain. Okay, now We already know what happens if you apply a gate voltage with respect to bulk. We have the three modes of operation. Like if you apply a negative voltage, it will attract all the holes here underneath, and that will be like accumulating the holes, therefore it is called accumulation mode. And if you apply a small positive voltage, it will push away the holes underneath the oxide region, and we will have depletion mode. If you apply a large, that means voltage greater than threshold voltage on the gate, then we will have a negative layer that is created like this. Okay. So this metal is positive, these are holes, so are the positive charges throughout this, but there is a region where there is no charges. This is like you have a depletion region. Okay. Depletion region I am denoting with immobile charges. Circles denote immobile charges. Symbol negative sign shows electrons. Symbol positive sign shows holes. Okay. So this is the picture when you apply VGS is greater than VTH. Okay. Now once the charge is or inversion layer is created like this, then if you apply a source to drain voltage, so there are two voltages here. One is this voltage that we apply between source and drain, and the other is basically applied between source and gate. Okay, so there is a slight difference. We are not applying gate voltage with respect to bulk, we are applying it with respect to source. All voltages are applied with respect to source. Source is kept as the reference, not the bulk, but it is usually the practice. So source is taken as the ground, the reference is taken as the source, and usually for NMOS transistor, when you use it in digital circuits, what we do is the bulk terminal, this is the fourth terminal, that will also be connected to source, so that will also be grounded. So that is a common practice. But for PMOS transistor, the bulk terminal will be connected to okay, that also connected to source. So we always connect the bulk to the source, and so let us now stick to this one. So if VGS is greater than the threshold voltage, then inversion layer is created, and then there is a path between source and drain through which current can flow if you apply a battery. So this battery is called VDS, and this is VGS. Okay. So now, so this is basically an NMOSFET. Okay, and NMOSFET is of two different types. One is this one is basically enhancement type, that's what we will mostly refer to. The other is basically depletion type. Okay, so let's stick to this enhancement type, and the complete symbol of this is basically so there are four terminals. So if you want to show all the four terminals, then the symbol will look like this. So this is our gate, and then there are three lines like this. Okay, so for NMOS, either you can put your arrow like this. So this is basically my source, and this is my drain, and this is my bulk. So these are the four terminals, and you can put your arrow in the bulk. If you are putting your arrow on the bulk, then For NMOS you put your arrow like this. Okay, for PMOS you put the arrow in the opposite direction on the bulk. Okay, that means outward. So this is NMOS symbol. Okay, so now the time is up, so we will continue in the next class the operation of the MOSFET, and then we have to derive the expression for current, because there is going to be current from drain to source. When you apply a positive VDS, there will be a current provided there is a inversion layer. Okay, so we need to create inversion layer using the gate voltage. After creating, you have to apply a gate voltage greater than threshold voltage to create the inversion layer. Only then there is a path of connecting drain and source, otherwise there will be no current. So that is how we achieve the switching operation of a MOSFET. We will look at that in the following classes.